The following accounts are not fiction. They are not the product of fevered imaginations or campfire tales. These are real events that happen to real people, documented, verified nightmares that remind us the greatest horrors aren't found in novels or films, but in the twisted actions of those who walk among us. In 1987, 23-year-old Alicia Matthews lived alone in her first apartment in suburban Portland. For weeks, she noticed small disturbances: a moved coffee mug, a shifted photograph, her toothbrush wet when she hadn't used it. Friends dismissed her concerns as forgetfulness or stress from her new nursing job. Then food began disappearing overnight. The apartment manager checked for signs of break-ins but found nothing. One night, exhausted from a double shift, Alicia woke to a soft shuffling sound from her closet. Paralyzed with fear, she watched as the door slowly opened and a gaunt, unwashed man emerged. He'd been living in her apartment for nearly 2 months, hiding in the crawlspace above her bedroom during the day, coming down at night to eat her food and use her belongings while she slept. Police later discovered he had made a crude nest in the attic with items stolen from her and previous tenants. Most disturbing of all, photographs of Alicia sleeping found in his possession, taken inches from her face as she remained unaware. The Erickson family's 2004 summer vacation to Michigan's Upper Peninsula ended in tragedy that remains unexplained to this day. Their rental cabin's previous visitors had complained of something wrong with the water, but property management assured them the well had been tested and was safe. By their third day, 9-year-old Trevor began speaking of the woman in the lake who called to him at night. His parents found him sleepwalking toward the shore twice. On the 5th morning, Trevor was missing. Police found him floating face down in the lake, having apparently drowned. The autopsy revealed something medical examiners couldn't explain: Trevor's lungs contained no water, indicating he hadn't drowned. Instead, his throat and lungs were packed with a black soil not found anywhere near the cabin or lakeshore. Even more disturbing, deep scratches on his legs appeared to drag downward, as if something had pulled him under. The case remains officially unsolved, labeled as death by misadventure. In December 2011, Philadelphia police responded to reports of strange odors coming from the basement of an abandoned hospital scheduled for demolition. What they discovered defies comprehension even now. A fully functioning surgical suite had been established in the decaying basement, with stolen medical equipment and a makeshift recovery ward containing 3 beds. Blood evidence suggested at least 7 different people had been operated on there. Most disturbing was the recovered journal detailing experimental procedures performed without anesthesia. The author, never identified, described removing and reattaching limbs, organs, and even attempting to transplant partial faces. The final entry simply read, "Subject 12 survived the full procedure. Evolution achieved." Despite extensive investigation, no victims were ever identified, and the perpetrator remains at large. Medical experts examining the journal concluded the writer had extensive surgical training. Emma Wilkinson's story begins with a wrong number. For 3 consecutive nights in 2015, she received calls at exactly 3:17 a.m. from the same unknown number. Each time, the caller remained silent for exactly 30 seconds before hanging up. On the 4th night, a man's voice whispered, "I just wanted to hear your voice before I meet you." Emma contacted police, who traced the calls to a prepaid phone purchased with cash. 2 days later, authorities arrested 47-year-old Raymond Carr during a routine traffic stop 3 blocks from Emma's home. In his vehicle, they discovered detailed maps of her daily routine, copies of her house keys, over 300 photographs taken through her windows, and a surgical kit containing sedatives and restraints. Most chilling of all was the 6-page document titled The Extraction, detailing his plans to abduct Emma that very night. Carr, a hospital janitor with no prior criminal record, had become fixated on Emma after seeing her visit a patient. He later confessed he had been entering her home for weeks while she was at work, sitting in her rooms, and practicing her presence. Perhaps most unsettling is the 2019 case from rural Nebraska that authorities have struggled to explain. The Clement family, husband, wife, and 2 teenage daughters, were found in their farmhouse seated at the dinner table, dead for approximately 5 days. The cause of death: fatal doses of an unidentified toxin in their partially consumed meal. What confounded investigators was the house itself, locked from the inside, alarm system active, security cameras showing no visitors for over a week. Yet evidence suggested something impossible. Dinner had been prepared using their food, but not by any family member. DNA analysis found unknown genetic material throughout the kitchen, not matching any database. Most disturbing were the words written in condensation on the bathroom mirror, discovered when investigators turned on the shower: "Invited in once is enough." The case remains unsolved, with local authorities requesting federal assistance to identify what one detective described as the perfect hunter. These are not ghost stories. These are not legends. These are documented cases pulled from police records, court transcripts, and medical reports. The most terrifying truth is not that monsters exist, it's that they look exactly like us, move among us, watch us, and wait. Tonight, check your closets. Check your attic. Listen for breathing that isn't yours. And remember, someone, somewhere, right now, is living through the opening moments of the next story I'll tell. Sleep well.
(2010) Westbrook Community Hospital. For 6 months, patients in the maternity ward reported strange occurrences. Personal items disappeared. Mothers woke to find their infants in different positions than when they'd fallen asleep. Hospital administrators dismissed these reports as the confusion of exhausted new parents. Then night nurse Rebecca Chen noticed something disturbing on the ward's security monitors: a figure in scrubs entering rooms during her rounds that didn't match any employee on duty. The timestamp: 3:42 a.m. Security identified the individual as Malcolm Pierce, a hospital IT technician with no reason to be on the maternity floor. When authorities searched his apartment, they discovered over 200 items taken from new mothers' hospital rooms: jewelry, baby clothes, personal documents. More disturbing was a hidden room containing 3 fully equipped bassinets and meticulously maintained records of every infant born in the hospital for the past 2 years, including home addresses, security system information, and parents' work schedules. Most chilling were the video files on his computer showing him standing over sleeping infants, touching them, sometimes lifting them, while whispering what investigators described as rehearsals for fatherhood. Pierce had installed backdoor access to the hospital's security system, allowing him to create blind spots in the coverage during his nighttime visits. He later confessed to entering the homes of at least 7 families after their hospital discharge, watching the infants while the parents slept. His journal detailed plans to claim my child within the month, though he hadn't selected which infant would recognize me as their true father. In 2014, the affluent neighborhood of Lakeview Estates experienced a series of break-ins with a peculiar pattern. Nothing valuable was stolen. Homeowners reported rearranged furniture, food consumed, and occasionally, family photographs missing from frames. Most disturbing, some residents found their beds had been slept in while they were away. Police increased patrols without results until Officer Sarah Donovan noticed a maintenance van that appeared at regular intervals. The vehicle belonged to Crystal Clear Pool Services, a company that didn't exist. The driver, Edward Merritt, had created a fictional pool service as cover for his actual activities. For over a year, he had been entering homes using a universal pool gate key and lockpicking skills. His apartment contained hundreds of items from different residences: used toothbrushes, half-empty perfume bottles, worn clothing, and family photographs with certain members' faces removed. Most disturbing was his calendar marking when each family would be away, information he gathered by befriending residents while posing as their pool technician. Police discovered he had lived in 12 different homes during owners' vacations, sleeping in their beds, wearing their clothes, and using their personal items. In his journal, Merritt wrote about becoming different people by inhabiting their spaces and possessions. At the time of his arrest, he had scheduled his next residence with a family planning a 2-week absence at a home with teenage daughters whose rooms received special attention. In his notes, the small town of Millridge seemed an unlikely setting for horror until 2017. When local children began reporting a friendly doctor who approached them in the park offering free checkups in his mobile clinic. Parents alerted police, who found no authorized medical outreach programs in the area. Surveillance established at the park captured Douglas Werner, a former nursing assistant discharged from a hospital in a neighboring county for boundary violations with patients. The vehicle he used, designed to resemble unofficial medical transport, contained a disturbing array of sedatives, restraints, and medical equipment stolen from various facilities. Most chilling was his patient log. Detailed information about 27 children from the area, including their routines, parental schedules, and what he termed extraction difficulty ratings. Investigators discovered he had successfully lured 3 children into his vehicle in previous weeks, though he released them after what he called preliminary examinations. Photographs recovered from hidden cameras in the vehicle documented these encounters. Werner had rented a remote cabin 30 miles from town, renovated with what appeared to be a surgical suite and recovery room. When questioned about his intentions, he spoke at length about his research into pediatric pain thresholds and his belief that children heal differently when properly motivated. The cabin's basement, which Werner called his long-term care facility, had been soundproofed. Perhaps most insidious is the 2020 case of Patricia Wells, a home health aide for elderly clients in Glendale. For 3 years, she received glowing reviews from families who praised her attentiveness and care. What they didn't know was that Patricia Wells didn't exist. The woman they welcomed into their home after giving her keys, alarm codes, and complete access to their vulnerable loved Oneza was Vanessa Kirby, whose actual identity emerged only after the death of 87-year-old Harold Simmons. Toxicology reports revealed a complex cocktail of medications not prescribed to him. Investigation revealed Patricia had been caring for 8 different elderly clients, systematically isolating them from family by reporting fictional hostile behavior to relatives while telling clients their families had reduced contact voluntarily. She manipulated 5 clients into changing their wills, naming her charitable foundation as beneficiary. This foundation, investigating officers discovered, funded only one project: the purchase and renovation of an isolated property she called her retirement community. Most disturbing were the recordings found on her device, hundreds of hours of her conversations with clients where she practiced different personas, voices, and backgrounds, tailoring her identity to each victim's preferences and needs. She maintained detailed journals analyzing which approaches yielded the most trust, noting, widowers respond best to maternal energy with occasional flirtatious undertones. Implement gradually over 3-4 weeks before financial discussions. The case of Clearwater Elementary School in 2022 demonstrates how institutions can fail those they're meant to protect. For months, children reported encounters with a special counselor who removed them from class for private sessions in a converted storage room. Parents were never notified of these meetings. The individual, later identified as Victor Pearson, had created convincing credentials and manipulated school records to appear as an authorized district counselor. By exploiting understaffing and administrative disorganization, he conducted over 30 counseling sessions with children selected for what he termed their suggestibility factors. During these sessions, Pearson employed techniques consistent with psychological conditioning and early-stage grooming behaviors. He documented each child's fears, family dynamics, and potential vulnerabilities. Most alarming was his methodical establishment of secret-keeping protocols with the children, testing their willingness to conceal increasingly inappropriate interactions. What prevented this case from becoming a tragedy was 8-year-old Zoe Harrington, who, despite Pearson's instructions not to discuss their meetings, told her mother about the friendship tests the counselor conducted, exercises designed to normalize progressive boundary violations. When police searched Pearson's residence, they discovered detailed plans for what he called summer intensive therapy arrangements to continue contact with selected children outside the school environment. These aren't ghost stories. These aren't campfire tales. These are documented cases of predators who moved through our world wearing masks of normalcy, individuals who exploited our trust, our routines, and our assumptions of safety. Tonight, when you check your logs, remember the monster rarely announces itself with growls or scratches at the window. It smiles, it carries credentials, it learns your schedule, it gains your trust, and it waits for the perfect moment to reveal what has been hiding behind human eyes all along.
The summer of 2008 brought unprecedented heat to the small community of Millfield. When elderly residents complained about power outages on Oak Ridge Lane, utility worker James Harmon was dispatched to investigate. The pattern was peculiar: blackouts affecting only 3 homes, always between 1 o'clock and 4 a.m. Suspecting tampering, James installed a discreet camera near the transformer. What the footage revealed sent shockwaves through law enforcement. Each night, a man in municipal workers' clothing would disconnect power to those specific houses, then methodically test their doors and windows. On the 3rd night, James recognized the face beneath the hard hat: Daniel Weston, a fellow utility employee. Police arrested Weston at his home, where they discovered detailed layouts of 12 residences, all belonging to women living alone, categorized by what he called access difficulty. A hidden room contained restraints, surgical tools, and a journal documenting his practice runs. Most disturbing were the souvenirs: 23 items taken from homes he had already entered while occupants slept, hairbrushes, underwear, and photographs with faces carefully removed. Weston had used his position to silence alarms, cut power, and enter 5 homes already. In his journal, he wrote that he was almost ready to begin collecting properly. The residents of those darkened houses never knew how close they came to becoming more than just entries in his journal. In 2013, Catherine Myers received a friend request from Linda Bennett. The profile showed a woman in her 30s with a warm smile. Catherine accepted, and they began chatting about shared interests in gardening and antiques. 4 months, their online friendship grew, with Linda offering supportive messages during Catherine's divorce. They planned to meet when Linda moved to Catherine's city for work. 3 days before their scheduled meeting, Catherine's sister arrived for a surprise visit and noticed Linda's messages. The photos seemed familiar. Research revealed Linda Bennett was using photographs of a Brazilian model. More disturbing, the details Linda had shared: her job, hometown, even her dog's name, matched Catherine's own life from 5 years earlier, information available only to someone who had been following her long before their friendship began. Police traced the account to Thomas Halloway, Catherine's former neighbor who had moved away years earlier. In his apartment, they found a shrine-like collection of surveillance photos of Catherine spanning 6 years, including pictures through her windows taken just days earlier. Holloway had methodically constructed a false persona designed to mirror Catherine's interests and gain her trust. The planned coffee meeting was actually scheduled for a remote hiking trail. In Holloway's vehicle, investigators found a recently purchased shovel, plastic sheeting, and a handwritten list titled "Questions to Ask Before." The 2016 case of the Riverside Hospital remains one of the most disturbing examples of institutional failure in medical history. For 18 months, patients in the geriatric ward reported seeing an angel visit their rooms at night. Staff dismissed these accounts as medication-induced hallucinations from elderly patients. When 83-year-old Margaret Wilson died unexpectedly, her grandson, a medical student, questioned the autopsy findings. Toxicology screens revealed a compound not prescribed to Margaret. Further investigation found the same substance in tissue samples from 11 other deceased patients, all who had reported seeing the night angel. Security footage review revealed nurse Ellen Chambers entering rooms of deceased patients during night shifts when she wasn't assigned to their care. When authorities searched her home, they found journals documenting 38 merciful transitions, her term for deliberately inducing cardiac arrest in patients she unilaterally deemed suffering too much. Most chilling was her collection of small tokens taken from each victim: wedding rings, religious medals, even dentures arranged in a display case she called her gratitude shelf. Chambers, with no history of mental illness or criminal behavior, had worked at the hospital for 22 years. The isolated cabin on Lake Morrison had been vacant for years before the Whitman family purchased it as a vacation home in 2018. From their first weekend, 11-year-old Tommy complained about the whispering man who stood in the corner of his room at night. His parents assumed it was anxiety about the new, unfamiliar space. During their third stay, Mrs. Whitman noticed food missing despite the cabin's remote location. Her husband discovered unusual scratches around the basement door lock. Thinking animals might be getting in, he set up wildlife cameras. The footage revealed something far worse. A gaunt, bearded man emerged each night from a concealed entrance in the basement, an entrance not shown in any building plans. Police investigation revealed a previous owner had constructed a hidden bunker beneath the cabin during the Cold War. The man, identified as Elias Keene, had been squatting there for an estimated 7 years, coming up at night to steal food and watch the occasional visitors. Most disturbing was the wall in his bunker where he had drilled nearly invisible holes into the floorboards of each room, allowing him to observe occupants at all times. Police found detailed journals describing the habits, conversations, and sleeping patterns of every family who had stayed in the cabin, including the Whitmans. The final entry, written the day before his discovery, read, "The boy knows I'm here. Soon I'll have to introduce myself properly." Perhaps most inexplicable is the 2021 case from Glenwood Apartments. Multiple residents reported receiving hand-delivered envelopes containing photographs of themselves sleeping in their beds. Police found no signs of forced entry in any apartment. Building security cameras showed no unauthorized persons entering the premises on the nights in question. During their investigation, detectives discovered something that defied explanation. Each affected resident had, at some point, used the building's maintenance request system to report minor issues: a leaking faucet, a stuck window, flickering lights. Maintenance records showed these requests were fulfilled by different staff members during normal daytime hours. However, hidden within the building's ventilation system, police found a crawlspace containing a sleeping bag, food wrappers, and hundreds of photographs of residents not just sleeping, but eating dinner, watching television, and engaging in intimate moments. The space connected to a network of maintenance passages designed to access plumbing and electrical systems throughout the building. The maintenance worker who created this observation post, Harold Mercer, had been employed by the building for only 3 months. Background checks had shown no criminal history. His psychological evaluation during hiring had raised no red flags. Yet his journal revealed he had specifically applied for the position after studying the building's blueprints, looking for what he called perfect witnessing architecture. Most disturbing were his notes analyzing residents' routines and sleep patterns, concluding with recommendations for optimal harvest timing for each apartment. These are not tales designed to frighten. These are documented cases that remind us of an uncomfortable truth. Sometimes the monster isn't hiding under the bed, sometimes it's watching you from between the walls, wearing a trusted uniform, or hiding behind a friendly message on your screen. Check your locks tonight. But remember, locks only keep out strangers, and as these cases prove, the most dangerous predators are those